One thing I'm going to do in my videos is be true to what I believe. I'll listen to people, and I'll listen to the critics. And I actually listen to people if they have an idea that has some merit to it. I'll listen. But you know what? Sometimes there are things that people criticize about what I do. I hear that criticism a million times. I shouldn't trust my feelings. I shouldn't trust my intuition. I believe in trusting your intuition, and I believe in trusting your feelings. I strongly believe that. Because that is what guides me. The one thing that guides me in life is to follow what my own heart tells me to do. More than any other factor. There are people who believe that we must be logical and rational and do what is rational and do what is logical. I'm telling you right now, I know for a fact, if I had followed what was rational and what was logical all my life, I'd still be on welfare. If I had a job, which I probably wouldn't, maybe I would have. I probably would have a very low job. I mean, not that I have a great, spectacular job now. I wouldn't have very many friends. I would be suffering from a lot of things if I'm still alive. The quality of my life would be a lot less than what it is. I have to be true to what I believe. And I'm not wavering on that, even if I'm wrong. I think the big problem for so many people is they're so afraid to take the risk of living their life the way that they really see that it is right to live it. You have to follow your intuition, and you have to follow your instincts. People exaggerate things, and they blow things out of proportion. And they make it seem like it's such a horrible thing to do that. And then they'll point out all the bad things in the world, how people follow their instincts. I kind of think, for example, that if you're going to examine things, then examine bad things. Okay, go ahead and examine that. Let's look at one of the incidents that happened in my lifetime that had a big influence on my thinking and really made me question things. And it happened in November of just the big thing in history, in our recent history, to seem like people forget all about it. And which is kind of an irony because I remember in the newspaper this big sign, a quote from George Santayana, which was written on something in that place. In that place. And it was a newspaper, thing they were showing, because the big news story then in November 1978, if you remember, besides the two things that happened in November, that was when the mayor of San Francisco was assassinated. But also the other thing before that, because people thought the two things were connected at first, which they weren't. Because it had to do with San Francisco too, was the Jonestown incident. And I remember the thing in Jonestown, there was the thing in the paper, they were showing these people who had committed suicide. And you see all these dead people right here in this one place. And a big sign with a quote from George Santayana that said, "Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And it seems so funny now we look back on it, how people have forgot the past. And they are condemned to repeat it. What's important is that you do follow your instincts. I know it's not connected, so therefore this is not going up on YouTube. But that's the thing. People don't follow instincts. I'm not shying away from that. That's something I believe in strongly. I'm very strong about that. My whole life has been doing what I felt was right. Not going along with the crowd. I think that that's the thing. People become conformist. That was the problem with Jonestown. People conformed. They went along with the program. They conformed to the leader. Their actions were just an extension of his actions. If he said something, they did it, and they had no other choice in their minds because they committed themselves to that. They committed themselves to being like him. If he said, "Kill yourself," you did it. Don't become a conformist. Don't become somebody who just goes along with the crowd. Follow what your heart tells you. There are people who know that doing what they did, what those people are doing wrong. One of the things that people forget is in the Jonestown thing is some people actually did escape. Not everybody died, but most people did. A few people actually did escape. Some people in the process of escaping were killed, but some people actually did. There were some survivors. There were some people who looked at this and say, no, this is wrong. And there were some people in that group who didn't commit suicide. They were killed. They refused, and if you refused, they shot you. Conformity. This is what I'm talking about. Conformity. You look at the terrorists. What do? They conform to a leader. That leader tells them to do something, they do it. They can't break free. They can't follow something in them that says this is wrong. I think that everybody has that inner voice that tells them that doing something like some of the things these people were doing were wrong. It tells them. But they can't break free from it because they must conform to the rules. They must do what they're told. Look at the Milgram thing. Go back and look at the Milgram experiments done at Yale. Look at that. That's important.